My apologies. Cause my TBR is a-changing. Yes, indeed, I'm switching up the TBR. So the last 8 months or so, I've been doing 3,000 pages a month, at least 3 genres. I've had a guest pick a book for me every month. Some of that's going to remain the same, but I'm going to switch things up a little bit. One reason is that I've had a couple months where I've gotten to the end of the month and I've felt a little bit of pressure to get through the TBR. Now, I don't think I rushed through any books or neglected to read as I normally would, but this pressure, which I freely admit is mostly self-imposed, was real, and I don't really want that in my life. There's enough life constraints that provide stress and pressure. I don't need my TBR to do that. So that's one reason I think I'm going to change things up. Another reason is that although I've loved the structure, and I'm going to still keep some structure, I want to have a little bit more spontaneity. So each month have a little bit more flexibility to be able to just pick up something on a whim. I'm not a big mood reader, but it would be nice to be able to have just a little bit more flexibility. Third reason that I want to switch things up is that at the end of the month, I'm going to be doing some beta reading for an author that I greatly admire and really enjoy their works. So I want to make sure that I have time and I don't feel rushed at all. I want to do the best job that I can. If this author trusts me and my thoughts on their unpublished work, I want to make sure that I can do the best job that I can on that. So because of that, the way that it's going to change, 2 things are going to remain the same. You're still going to get 3 genres for me every month. I'm still going to have a guest pick a book for me every month. Like this month, I have Peter from Pete English Literature is going to pick a book for me. I've loved that aspect of my TBR. It's been a nice wrinkle. I've read some fantastic books that I might not have read this year had somebody not specifically picked them for me. So I'm going to keep that going maybe forever. So I really like that part. So those things are going to remain the same. The thing that's going to be different is I'm just going to give you 5 books. 5 books that I plan on reading this month. That will allow me a little bit of flexibility because I'm averaging about 8 or 9 books a month. It should allow that flexibility for me to be a little bit more spontaneous here and there, to insert a little bit of mood reading into what I'm doing. But since the rest of the TBR videos, not this one, because I'm babbling on about how I'm switching up the TBR, the other ones might be short with only 5 books. So I'm going to add every month 3 possibilities, kind of an MBR to the end of the TBR, so I can still talk about more than just 5 books in a video, 4 because one of them's picked for me. So let's go ahead and get started. The first book that I plan on reading in September is Mistress of the Empire by Raymond E. Feist and Janie Wertz. This is the conclusion of the Empire trilogy. I've been reading these the past 2 months. Love this trilogy. I will do a short review of Servant of the Empire, Book 2, in my August book reviews. That's not going to be until mid-month because I have a dual review that's going to come out between then, and then I have a brunch and book talk weekend. So anyway, that'll come out about middle of the month. So just stay tuned for my thoughts on that. More on the dual review in just a second. But I'm loving this series. It is one of the best political fantasies I have read. It is potentially a top 10 book series of all time for me. We'll see how it ends. As I'm filming this, it's the 2nd of the month. I'm about 170 pages in and fully immersed into Mara's story, and I'm just looking forward to seeing where it goes. Another priority this month is not one that I can show you when I shoot my B-roll because I don't have it yet, and that is Stephen King's newest book, Holly, which is being released next week. My favorite author comes out with a new book. Of course, I'm going to read it as close to publication date as I can. So this follows Holly Gibney, who is a character from his Bill Hodges trilogy, as well as The Outsider. So I don't really know much about this book because I've stopped reading synopses and things like that. All I know is that with her, it's usually crime fiction with a touch of the supernatural. So we'll see where this goes. I don't have the high expectations for this like I had with Fairy Tale. That might be a good thing because I was disappointed when Fairy Tale did not meet those high expectations. So I'm going in kind of even keel with Holly, but it is my favorite author. So I do hope that it's another great book by Stephen King. Look forward to reading that, probably starting as soon as I get my hands on it. So my guest this month to pick a book for me is Peter from P English Literature. So Peter, what am I reading this month?
I'm recommending and picking Far or Four, the Cracklock Saga by C.A. Deegan as the September TBR for the Red Fury books. I've seen that Red Fury books is a huge lover of fantasy, and I've been instructed to pick a book for a September TBR, and I'm going with this. This is a fantasy novel that really piqued my interest when I read it. I love the characterization, I love the storytelling techniques. It's extremely wholesome, and I'm also a fan of fantasy. Actually, Fire 4, which is a Cracklock Saga by Craig Deegan, is one of those books that rekindles my love and admiration for fantasy. That's actually one of the reasons why I'm picking it up. To talk about the characterization, it is awesome. To talk about the storytelling techniques, and more particularly the switch, the plot, the way the story is told, and it makes you paint image in your head as you read along. That's one thing I can particularly say about C.A. Deegan's writing style. It is awesome. It's that kind of books that keep you panting for more. What's going to come up in the next chapter, in the next read. And I'm hopeful that Red Fury Books will enjoy Far or Four by Craig Deegan and find it with all and even with more than I've described. So if I should pick a fantasy novel, it will be the Cracklock Saga Far or Four by C.A. Deegan. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. I'm looking forward to reading this. It's really tough because there's so much self-published works out there. It's tough to go into them blind, so I always appreciate when someone recommends one to me, specifically recommends one specifically to me. So I am looking forward to reading this. I appreciate the recommendation. If you don't know Peter's channel, he does a lot of the great things that we talk about in literature, but he also does a lot of really great author interviews. So if you're interested in seeing him talk with some authors and talk about the craft and talk about their works, Peter's channel is fantastic for that. So go check him out if you don't subscribe to him already. Okay, and the last two books I can talk about together because they are by Dan Simmons and they are Endymion and The Rise of Endymion. So last month I did read Hyperion and the Fall of Hyperion, and those are the books that I'm going to do a dual review. So that's the reason that my August book reviews are going to be delayed a little bit, because I want to get that review out probably next week. So you can look forward to that if you're interested in hearing my spoiler-free thoughts on Hyperion and the Fall of Hyperion. So all four of these books make up the Hyperion Cantos, but from what I understand, each of them are kind of a pair. Hyperion and Fall of Hyperion, I can, having just read them, say that they do pair together. Endymion and The Rise of Endymion, I think there's a time jump, but that these two books kind of work as a duology as well. But I did really love those first two books, so I'm looking forward to finishing Hyperion Cantos, which was one of my top priorities to read in 2023. Okay, on to my 3 MBR in this video. So some things I might read. So these are kind of the possibilities, starting with a book called The Art of Possibility. Benjamin Zander is an orchestral conductor who has probably my favorite TED Talk. In fact, Google The Art of Possibility and find his TED Talk. It's fantastic. And he wrote this book with his wife, and it's just about, I think, reframing things, being positive about things, thinking about the possibilities in life and not the challenges in life. And I know there's going to be a lot of musical discussions because Ben Zander is an orchestral conductor like myself. So this might be a possibility. If I don't read this month, I can guarantee this will be on the October TBR. So September is traditionally Sci-Fi September, but I have that covered with Dan Simmons. I wish I'd saved the post. I don't know if it was Twitter or Instagram or Goodreads or YouTube, but I saw someone say Cimmerian September, as in Conan of Cimmeria. So it might be cool to pick up the next one in my Robert Jordan Conan Chronicles Omnibus. That would be Conan the Defender, to participate in Cimmerian September. That might happen. We will see. And if I get really ahead, this one's kind of a chunker, but I really can't wait to read The Prophet of Edan by Philip Chase. I have this scheduled in October, sneak preview to my October TBR. I plan on reading this in October and probably the last book in November, but if I get ahead, maybe I'll jumpstart this one. We'll see. Again, these last 3 books are maybe I'll read all 3, maybe I'll read none of them. Who knows? You have to check out my September book reviews to find out. So hey, what do you think of the new TBR structure? Good idea? Bad idea? Do you have a better idea for me? I'm always willing to listen. I'd also love, if you've read any of these books, just tell me what you thought about them and let me know what you're planning on reading this month. I always love hearing what you're going to read this month as well. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. You can also find me on Twitter and Goodreads. I'd love to interact with you there. As always, thank you for watching. Until next time, goodbye.